You could eat just chocolate covered cherries from a box filled with high fructose corn syrup and all kinds of other additives, or you can make your own. Hi, I'm Natalie Madison of Art is in Cakes, where we give you the tools and the knowledge to build your passion for baking. And today we're going to show you how to super simple. I am using a cherry mold and just some basic confectionery coating chocolate, which of course you can temper real chocolate and use this in your molds. It's going to taste even better. But you are going to fill your molds pretty much all the way to the top. I know you're asking me already, how are we supposed to get the cherry and fondant in there? Well, we're actually going to create a shell. I am filling it up just so it's easier to reach all the way to the top edge. And then I am tamping this down to get the air bubbles out. And then I'm going to turn right around and pour it all back into the bowl. Messy work, but somebody has to do it. This was one I wish I had a little chocolate enrober. Okay. Back side. We get most of that chocolate out. And so we should have a decent coating on the inside of our shells. Take a minute and clean this mold off. I just like to use a flat scraper to get the chocolate off. And my chocolate's pretty thick. I do want some thick chocolate for the shells, but not so much that it is mostly chocolate and not cherry. So I'm just going to tamp a little bit more of this out. Clean up my edges. All right, so I'm going to pop this into the refrigerator, let it firm up, and I'm going to add one more layer. That way I know my chocolate shell is thick enough to hold the cherry and the liquid that forms with the invertase. All right, the next step in making chocolate covered cherries is to build our cordial base. And we're going to use 1 pound of dry fondant with some invertase. Invertase actually acts as an enzyme to break down these solid sugars and turn it into liquid sugar. And that's how we get that wonderful filling that is traditionally a chocolate cordial, chocolate covered cherry. All right, let me just open everything up. We're going to begin by placing 1 pound of dry fondant into our mixing bowl. And to this dry fondant, we're now going to add 6 tablespoons of melted butter, and 2 tablespoons of liquid, and that can be anything from milk to heavy cream. In my case, I'm going to use the maraschino cherry base, the liquid that was in the cherries to begin with. And then lastly, we are going to add our invertase. Invertase is an enzyme that allows the breakdown of solid sugars to a liquid sugar. And we are going to add 1 full teaspoon to 1 pound worth of dry fondant. This action happens over a course of time. It can start within 3 days. It can last up to 2 weeks, slowly breaking down the fondant into that liquid base that surrounds the cherries. Turning our mixer on low and let this stir. Once this is formed into a nice thick dough, you're ready to form it into cordials. Now, I can tell by feeling it, it has just a little bit of granular texture left to it. I'm going to let it mix a little bit longer. There we go. Take all your dough out of the paddle attachment. And then building the actual cherries, super easy. For this particular mold, we're not going to use the cherry stems. These have been pitted. They've been basically placed in maraschino juice. But we're going to remove the stem. And then we are going to place some of our fondant in the bottom of our mold. And then make a little divot and place your cherry right into the middle. It's important that we have enough room at the top to cap this with a decent layer of chocolate. If it reaches the very top, then we're going to have fondant visible and the good old cordial juice will ooze out. All right, do this for each of your cherry molds. You can also take each cherry and press it into the fondant and wrap it up and then place it into your mold like this. If you don't want to use molds at all, keep those stems on the cherries. Create a ball of dough, smash it flat, place the stem up into the base of that fondant and just roll it up. Put this into the freezer to firm up, and then you can dip the entire cherry into chocolate without a mold. But I think the molds look really pretty, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make molds. We're going to put this back into the refrigerator to firm up a few more minutes. We're going to melt some chocolate and cap the tops. So we've let our fondant covered cherries rest in the refrigerator for a few minutes. It's a little bit cooler. This should help our final application of chocolate go a little bit smoother. This is confectionery coating that has just had a few paramount crystals added. And paramount crystals are the soy lecithins and the shortenings that are used to create the base of this particular confectionery chocolate. And that allows this to have just a little more smoothness and ease in use for our chocolate molds. So I'm going to spoon a bit of this in each mold. Try not to overdo it. And then again with a gentle tapping motion. Let's do this with a cloth. We're going to let that chocolate settle into the molds. And if you see fondant sticking out, we need to do a better job of adding more chocolate. Though we really don't want to overflow these molds because we have such pretty shells started. All right, a few more taps. And an example of what not to do. So we've overflowed this in this fondant mold. So we're just going to go back with our scraper and gently scrape that flat. Chocolate is messy, be prepared. Very messy. All right. And then using a toothpick or a little stem, whatever you happen to have, just drag those out to the outside edges. It's like I want that right on the edge. Chocolate is so messy. You will want to clean up your outside edges to make sure these forms pop out cleanly. And then put this in the refrigerator or freezer to finish firming up. We have pulled our chocolates out of the freezer, and they're ready to go. That's how you know when they're ready to go, when they just pop out on their own, like that. Now the hard part, we have to wait 2 weeks to eat these. We need time for the invertase to do its magic. The enzymatic action happens over a period of 3 to possibly 12 to 14 days. And that enzymatic action will occur easier at room temperature, so you do want to leave these at room temperature and just let them sit and rest for approximately 2 weeks before you dive into them. And that's how we make chocolate covered cherries from scratch, without high fructose corn syrup, without any special additives, just a little bit of invertase and dry fondant, your choice of maraschino cherry, and your choice of chocolate. Ta-da!